The desert world stretched endless before them, a sea of red sand under a pale sun. Mason stood at the edge of the dune, his visor reflecting the strange horizon. The scanners on his wrist pulsed with readings, faint but steady. Something slept beneath the ground, something massive. Buried structure, Mason said, his voice calm but firm. Deep, maybe half a mile under. Behind him, the rest of the team gathered. Nora, the engineer, adjusted her pack and checked her tools. Kai, the youngest, kept staring at the dunes like he expected them to move. And beside them stood two tall alien partners, their long frames wrapped in silver robes. Their eyes glowed faintly blue as they studied the land with unease. "This place is forbidden," one alien said softly. His name was Talem. His voice carried the weight of memory. "Our records speak of this desert. It holds the tomb of an empire that fell before your kind learned to walk upright. The tomb was sealed for a reason. Nothing living should disturb it." Mason looked at him without fear. He had heard such warnings many times. Humans had been told to stay away from oceans, from mountains, from space itself. Yet every time, they stepped forward. It was not in their nature to retreat from mystery. "That may be true," Mason replied. "But our readings show energy beneath us. Strong energy, old but alive. If there is knowledge down there, or power, we cannot leave it buried. Humanity came to explore, not to walk away." Kai swallowed, nervous. What if the tomb really is cursed? Nora gave him a steady look. "Curses are just old stories, Kai. What we find down there will be real. Machines, stones, maybe weapons. But not curses." She tightened the straps on her suit. "I say we go." Talem and his companion exchanged glances. Their glowing eyes dimmed, as if fear itself pressed against them. "Your kind never listens," Talem murmured. "You chase what others fear. That is why you are dangerous." Mason did not argue. He simply turned and began marking a path down the dune. His boots sank into the sand as he moved with steady confidence. The others followed, their steps leaving a trail across the endless desert. The sun burned above, but the air was still and empty, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Hours passed as they searched for an entrance. Finally, Nora's scanner beeped sharply. She brushed away sand with her hands until metal gleamed beneath. It was smooth, not rusted, shining faintly under the dust of ages. "Here," she said, excitement breaking through her calm tone. "This is not natural. This is a door." The team worked together, clearing sand until a massive circular hatch was revealed. Strange symbols were carved across it, glowing faintly with golden light. Kai ran his hand across the carvings, and for a moment he swore he felt heat under his skin, like fire locked behind the metal. Talem stepped back. "Do not open it. The last empire sealed this tomb with their own hands. They left warnings, not welcomes." But Mason placed his gloved hand on the hatch, studying the symbols. They looked like stars, lines, and flames. He did not understand their meaning, yet he felt the weight of them. Still, his decision was made. "Humanity has always opened doors others left closed," Mason said. "That is why we are here. That is who we are." Nora connected her tools to the hatch. Sparks lit the air as ancient mechanisms groaned in protest. Dust lifted as gears long silent began to turn. The desert floor trembled beneath their feet. Slowly, the hatch cracked open, releasing a rush of air that smelled of stone, ash, and something older than memory. The team stepped back as the opening widened. Darkness waited inside, vast and silent. But within that darkness, faint golden light flickered, pulsing like a heartbeat. Kai whispered, "It is alive." Talem's eyes blazed with fear. "You have awakened what should have slept forever." But Mason only adjusted the light on his helmet and took a step toward the opening. His shadow stretched into the tomb, swallowed by its depths. "Alive or not," he said, "we will find out what lies within." And with that, the humans stepped forward, their courage carrying them into the tomb that time had forgotten. The desert closed around them, silent witness to the moment history turned once more. The first steps into the tomb were heavy with silence. The air was cool and dry, as though sealed for ages. Dust lifted around their boots, but golden veins carved into the walls shimmered faintly. It was as if the stone itself carried fire, locked inside for eternity. Kai held his light high. The beam stretched across pillars that rose like giants. Every surface was carved with symbols, flowing in lines that looked like rivers of flame. Even without touching them, he felt warmth radiating from the walls. "This place is not dead," Kai whispered. Nora knelt beside one of the glowing veins. She pulled out her scanner, running it across the surface. Numbers flickered on the screen. Her brow furrowed in wonder. "Unbelievable. This ore is still active. It is not simple stone. It carries energy, more than any power cell I have ever seen. If we could harness this, it could fuel entire colonies." Mason studied the glow, his eyes calm but thoughtful. "Energy that lasts for thousands of years. Whoever built this place wanted it to endure. They succeeded." Talem, who had followed reluctantly, shook his head sharply. His glowing eyes seemed brighter in the golden light. "You do not understand. That glow is not a gift. It is a warning. The ore is alive. It feeds on itself, burning without end. My people learned long ago never to touch it." But Nora did not step back. Her hand hovered close to the golden vein, feeling the heat rising like the breath of something sleeping. "Alive or not, it is powerful. Humanity has spent centuries searching for stable energy. This could change everything." The group continued deeper. The hall stretched into endless passageways, each lit by golden veins that cast shifting shadows across the floor. In some places, statues stood against the walls, tall figures with sharp features, holding weapons carved from the same glowing ore. Their eyes seemed to follow the humans as they passed. Kai walked close to Mason. "Why would they build this underground? If the ore is so strong, why hide it?" Mason's voice was steady. "Perhaps they feared it. Or perhaps they wanted to protect it from others. Either way, it is ours to understand now." As they moved, the silence broke. A low hum echoed through the halls. At first faint, it grew stronger with every step, like the sound of a giant heart beating in the dark. The ground trembled under their boots. Nora stopped suddenly, pointing her light ahead. The passage opened into a vast chamber. The ceiling arched high above, carved with swirling designs that glowed like fire trapped in stone. And at the center of the chamber lay mountains of ore, shimmering piles of golden crystals, glowing so bright the air itself seemed to burn with light. Kai gasped, unable to hold back. "It is like treasure. Endless treasure." But Mason did not move closer. His eyes scanned the chamber, reading the signs of age and power. He saw cracks in the floor, scorch marks on the walls, as if something once tried to escape. "This is no treasure room," he said. "This is storage. A vault. They locked it away for a reason." Talem took a step back, fear tightening his features. Now you see. This was not meant to be found. My people believed the gold was cursed because it destroyed the empire that made it. They thought they controlled it, but in the end it consumed them. The light of the chamber reflected in Nora's eyes. She shook her head. Or perhaps they failed because they used it for war. If we use it for life, for building, then it will not destroy us. Mason remained silent, his gaze fixed on the golden mountains. He felt the weight of choice pressing against him. Humanity stood at the edge of something vast. Power that could lift them higher than ever before, or bury them the way it buried those who came before. As the team spread through the chamber, Kai crouched beside a crystal. His reflection shone back at him in the golden surface. He reached out his hand, almost touching it, but stopped when the hum grew louder, vibrating through his bones. The golden veins along the walls brightened, pulsing in rhythm with the sound. Suddenly the chamber shifted. Dust rained from the ceiling. The statues along the walls seemed to stir, their glowing eyes igniting with fire. The hum rose into a roar, as if the tomb itself had woken. Nora stood quickly, her scanner flashing warnings. The energy is reacting to us. It knows we are here. Talem shouted, his voice sharp with fear. You have awakened it? Leave now before it is too late. But Mason did not retreat. He planted his boots firmly on the ground, his face calm though the chamber shook around him. His eyes locked on the glowing mountains, and for a moment he thought he saw shapes moving within the gold, like flames twisting into figures. This is no curse, Mason said firmly. This is a test. And we will face it? The golden light flared brighter, filling the chamber with fire-like glow. The humans stood ready, their shadows stretched against walls carved by a forgotten empire. Somewhere deep in the tomb, something ancient stirred, watching them, waiting to see if humanity would prove worthy or fall like those who came before. The roar of the golden chamber faded into silence. But it was not an empty silence. It was a silence that breathed, carrying with it whispers that were not born from living mouths. Kai froze, his heart racing. He turned his head, certain he had heard a voice. The sound had come from the walls themselves, soft like a memory spoken through stone. Did anyone hear that? He asked quickly. Nora lifted her scanner. The readings spiked across the screen, dancing wildly as if the air itself was alive. Not voices, she muttered, but energy. The walls are vibrating. These are recordings or echoes. They are not simple stone carvings, they are memory. Mason stepped forward, his eyes steady. He had seen ruins before, old human cities left behind by time, but nothing like this. The symbols along the walls seemed to move as the whispers grew clearer, shaping words in a language older than his race. He could not understand them, yet the meaning pressed against his mind. Talem's glowing eyes widened in fear. He raised his long hand, pointing toward the far end of the chamber. The guardians are waking. At first Mason saw nothing. Then the golden statues lining the walls began to shift. Their eyes glowed with fire, their limbs creaked as if pulled by strings of light. Dust cascaded from their shoulders as they stepped forward. Kai stumbled back, his voice tight with panic. They are alive. They are machines, Nora corrected, though her voice shook. Ancient machines, powered by the ore. They are still running after all these centuries. The machines moved in unison, their voices thundering through the chamber. The sound was not metal grinding, but words deep, echoing words that filled the humans' minds. Trespassers, the machines declared. You walk in the house of the fallen. You touch the fire that consumed us. You must be judged. The ground trembled. Dust fell from the high ceiling. The glowing veins pulsed brighter, as if the tomb itself agreed with the guardian's words. Talem's voice broke into fear. I warned you. This place does not forgive. We must flee. But Mason did not move. His boots pressed firm into the trembling ground. He raised his chin toward the guardians, his voice calm and strong. We are not here to steal. We are not here to destroy. We came because humans always seek what is hidden. We will not turn back now. The guardians paused. Their golden eyes flared, studying the small group. Then one stepped forward, towering over them. Its body was carved from fire-lit ore, its chest burning like a furnace. If you wish to remain, the guardian said, then you must face the trials. Only the worthy may walk where the dead still burn. Kai looked at Mason, fear pulling at him. Trials? What kind of trials? Mason kept his gaze on the guardian. The kind that prove if we belong here or not. The floor split open. The golden light surged, forming a path deeper into the tomb. Heat poured from below, filling the chamber like the breath of a giant. The guardians stepped aside, their voices booming as one. Enter, and be tested. Fail, and be ash. Nora glanced at Mason. Sweat ran down her forehead. If we walk through there, we might not come back. Mason's eyes never wavered. If we turn back, then we came here for nothing. Humanity has faced storms, oceans, and space itself. We will face this as well. Reluctantly, Kai and Nora followed, their lights casting long shadows across the golden floor. Talem stayed behind for a moment, his tall frame trembling. Then, with a heavy sigh, he too stepped forward, unable to leave them to walk alone. The passage led into a narrow corridor where the walls burned brighter with each step. The whispers grew louder, now forming full voices that echoed around them. The voices spoke of battles fought, worlds consumed, and an empire that believed itself eternal. They spoke of victory turned to ruin, and of fire that no water could quench. Kai covered his ears, but the voices were inside his head. They are warning us. They are telling us to stop. Mason's jaw tightened. Or they are daring us to continue. At last the corridor opened into another vast chamber. This one was different. Its floor was split into floating platforms suspended above a pit of glowing gold. The platforms shifted and turned slowly, as though waiting for someone to cross. The guardian's voice thundered once more. First trial. Walk the path of fire. Only the steady shall survive. Kai's stomach twisted. It is a trap. We will fall. Mason looked across the platforms. The path was not clear, but it was not impossible either. He turned to his team, his eyes steady. Then we do what humans always do. We keep moving forward. He stepped onto the first platform. It wobbled beneath his weight, glowing brighter. For a moment he thought it would collapse, but it held. He moved to the next, his balance sharp and his steps firm. Behind him, Nora followed, her hands clutching her pack as she kept her focus. Kai hesitated, then forced himself forward, each step a battle with fear. Talem came last, his long frame shaking as he moved across the shifting platforms. Above them, the golden walls pulsed like fire. The whispers grew louder, voices of the dead watching closely. The tomb itself seemed alive, eager to see if these humans could endure what had destroyed those who came before. And with each step deeper into the trial, Mason's resolve only grew stronger. The air inside the chamber was hot, filled with the glow of the golden pit below. Mason stood firm on the shifting platform, his eyes scanning the path ahead. Dozens of stone slabs floated above the glowing ore, each one tilting and turning slowly, never still. The only way forward was to cross them. Behind him, Nora adjusted her grip on her pack. Sweat clung to her face. "These slabs are not random," she said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes darted across the glowing gaps. "They follow a pattern. If we time our steps, we can cross." Kai shook his head quickly, fear sharp in his voice. "One wrong move and we fall. Look at that light. If we touch it, we are finished." Talem stood at the back, his tall frame tense. His glowing eyes narrowed. "This is why my people never returned here. The tomb was not meant to be passed. It was meant to trap." But Mason's voice cut through the fear, calm and commanding. "No. It was meant to test. Every lock has a key. Every trial has a purpose. We will not fail." He stepped forward again, moving with careful balance as the platform tilted beneath his boots. The golden light below surged brighter, as if the tomb itself was watching. He waited, studied the movement of the slabs ahead, then leapt to the next. It tilted under his weight, but he held steady. "Follow my lead," he called back. Nora went next. She moved quickly but kept her focus, counting the rhythm of the slabs before stepping. She reached Mason's side and let out a slow breath. "You're right. There is a pattern." Kai hesitated, his legs shaking. He looked at the pit below, golden light swirling like fire. His chest tightened. "I can't." Mason's voice softened. "Kai. You can. Trust yourself. Trust us." Nora reached out her hand. "I'll guide you. Watch my steps." Kai swallowed hard, then forced his foot forward. The slab wobbled, but he steadied himself. Another step, then another. His breath came quick, but with Nora's hand guiding him, he made it across to the second platform. His face lit with nervous relief. Talem came last. His long body moved slower, his balance less certain. The slabs tilted under his weight, and once his foot slipped against the edge. He nearly fell, but Mason grabbed his arm and pulled him back onto solid stone. For a moment, their eyes met. Talem's fear flickered into something else: respect. Together, the group pushed forward. The platforms grew more unpredictable, spinning faster and tilting sharper. At one point, Nora had to leap across two in quick succession, her boots skidding against the stone before Mason caught her. Kai stumbled twice, but each time he pushed himself back up, refusing to give in. As they crossed, the whispers around them grew louder. The walls spoke in voices of the dead, echoing words from an empire long gone. Mason could not understand the language, but the tone was clear: it was warning, challenge, and judgment all at once. At last, after what felt like hours, they reached the far side of the chamber. The final platform tilted sharply, nearly throwing them off, but Mason steadied it until the others crossed. One by one, they stepped onto solid ground again. Kai collapsed to his knees, gasping. "I thought I was done. I thought I would fall." Mason placed a hand on his shoulder. "You stood when you could have given up. That is what matters." The ground beneath them rumbled. The golden veins on the walls pulsed brighter, and the great guardian's voice boomed through the chamber. "You have passed the first trial. You have walked the path of fire and endured. Few have done so. Fewer still continue. The stone wall at the far end split open, revealing a new corridor. A strong wind rushed out, carrying with it the smell of ash and something sharp, like burnt metal. The light of the golden ore flickered within, as though inviting them forward. Talem shook his head. One trial is enough. Leave now, while you still can. You were lucky. The next will not forgive. But Mason's eyes remained fixed on the new passage. His voice was steady. Luck did not bring us here. Choice did. And we will keep choosing forward. Nora adjusted her pack. If the tomb is a test, then each trial shows what it values. The first was balance and courage. The next will be different. Kai stood again, his legs still trembling. Fear filled his eyes, but so did determination. Then we keep moving. If we stop now, everything we faced was for nothing. The group stepped into the corridor. The walls closed behind them, sealing the platform chamber in silence once more. This passage was narrower, the golden veins brighter than before. The whispers followed them, but now the voices seemed sharper, almost like commands. The walls shook faintly as if alive. They reached a tall gate carved from black stone. Symbols burned across its surface, glowing faintly with golden fire. At its center, a figure waited, formed entirely of glowing ore. Its body pulsed like a furnace, its eyes blazed like suns. You have proven your courage, the guardian said, its voice filling every corner of the chamber. Now prove your mind. For fire without wisdom only consumes. The gate split apart, revealing a vast hall lined with shifting walls, glowing puzzles carved into their surfaces. Paths stretched in every direction, twisting and changing like a living maze. Mason looked into the hall, his jaw firm. The second trial, he said quietly. And as the group stepped inside, the golden walls closed around them, ready to test not only their strength but the sharpness of their minds. The maze stretched before them, walls glowing with golden veins that shifted and changed. What looked like a straight path one moment became a dead end the next. The ground shook softly, as though the tomb itself was alive, moving pieces of stone like a giant puzzle. Nora studied the walls carefully, her scanner in hand. Numbers flickered across the screen, but the readings were uneven, jumping as if confused. This place is not random, she said. The walls move according to patterns. The maze is a test of thought, not chance. Kai frowned, his voice tight. So it wants us to solve it? What if we can't? Mason's steady gaze swept across the hall. Then we keep trying until we can. Panic will only trap us. Talem stood near the entrance, his glowing eyes unsettled. You are wasting your time. The tomb is not here to teach. It is here to break. You passed one trial, but this one is different. You will not escape. Mason did not answer him. Instead, he stepped forward, placing his hand on one of the glowing carvings. Symbols lit up, shifting into patterns that looked like stars joined by lines. A section of the wall slid aside, opening a narrow passage deeper inside. Nora's eyes widened. You triggered it? The symbols are the key. They moved quickly, following the new path before it could close. The walls shifted again behind them, sealing off the way back. Each new chamber brought a new puzzle, symbols that needed to be pressed in order, shifting tiles that had to be arranged into shapes, golden beams of light that had to be reflected across mirrors carved into the walls. Nora's hands worked fast, her mind sharp. She guided them through the hardest puzzles, her eyes lighting up each time she cracked the code. Kai struggled but watched closely, slowly learning the patterns. Twice he made mistakes, but instead of giving up, he tried again, his confidence growing. Mason focused on guiding them, keeping their steps calm and steady. His presence kept fear from taking root, even when the walls shook or the golden glow flared with heat. As they moved deeper, the whispers grew louder. The voices no longer sounded only like warnings. They spoke in tones that felt almost like questions. Mason could not understand the words, yet the meaning pressed into his thoughts. The tomb was not only testing them, it was judging them. At last, they reached the center of the maze. The chamber there was larger than any they had seen. The floor was carved with circles of golden ore, glowing brighter than the sun. At the center of the room floated a crystal the size of a man, pulsing with golden fire. Its light filled the air, and the heat pressed against their skin like a living presence. Kai stared in awe. That is it. That is the source. Nora scanned the crystal, her screen flashing wildly. Incredible. This is not just ore. This is a core. A living energy source. Stable, endless, alive. If we understood this, we could power fleets, cities, even whole planets. Talem stepped back, fear burning in his eyes. That is what destroyed the Empire. They thought as you do. They took the fire and used it for war. It gave them strength beyond all others. But in the end, it turned against them. It consumed their worlds until nothing was left but silence. The golden crystal pulsed brighter, and the whispers filled the chamber. Mason heard them clearer than before. They spoke of power, of war, of a choice that had once been made. He saw flashes in his mind, cities burning with golden light, fleets of ships tearing across the stars, and then only ruin. The Guardian appeared again, rising from the floor in a blaze of golden flame. Its towering form filled the chamber, its voice shaking the air. You have reached the heart. Here lies the secret of the tomb. The gold is not treasure. It is fuel. It is fire. The Empire locked it away to protect the galaxy from themselves. If you claim it, you inherit their burden. Nora's voice was firm, though awe filled her eyes. But if we use it differently, if we guide it, it could save millions of lives. The Guardian's blazing eyes turned toward her. Every empire has spoken those words. None kept them. Do you believe humanity will be different? The chamber shook as silence fell over the group. Mason stepped forward, his shadow stretching across the glowing floor. His voice was steady, carrying no fear. Yes, he said. We are not here to repeat the past. We are here to build the future. Humanity has always faced fire. We learn. We endure. And when we carry power, we carry it not for conquest but for survival, for growth, for life. The Guardian's light flared, filling the chamber with heat. Words are not enough. Prove them. The golden crystal pulsed violently, sending waves of energy across the chamber. The ground cracked beneath their feet, and the whispers rose into a storm. The trial was not finished. The true test had only begun. Mason's jaw tightened as the light roared around them. He looked back at his team, at Nora, at Kai, even at Talem. His voice cut through the chaos. Stand together. This is not just a trial of power. It is a trial of who we are. The golden flames rose higher, and the tomb itself seemed to lean closer, waiting to see if humanity's resolve could withstand the fire that had destroyed all before them. The chamber shook as the golden crystal flared brighter. The walls of the tomb glowed like molten rivers, and the air grew so hot it felt like they were standing inside a furnace. The Guardian of Flame raised its towering form, its voice thundering through the hall. You claim humanity will not repeat the sins of the fallen. Words are empty without proof. This trial will decide. The floor split into rings of fire, circling outward like ripples. Mason and his team stood on the center platform, the golden core floating above them. The energy surged like a heartbeat, each pulse stronger than the last. Kai's hands trembled as he looked around. It wants to burn us alive. Mason placed a steady hand on his shoulder. Not burn. Test. We stand together. The first wave struck. Flames shot upward from the golden circles, forming blazing figures of warriors. Their bodies were made of fire, their eyes burning white. They moved forward with blades of molten light, advancing in silence. Nora lifted her scanner, but the screen filled with static. I can't track them. They're not solid, but they can still harm us. Mason gripped his spear, the only weapon he had carried. Then we fight with focus. Do not let fear guide you. The fiery warriors attacked. Mason swung his spear, striking through one of them. The flames scattered, only to reform moments later. Kai grabbed a fallen piece of stone and threw it, but it passed through the warrior like air. These things don't break, Kai shouted. Nora's eyes darted across the glowing walls. They're not meant to break. They're meant to measure us. Look at how they move. They're copying our strength, our weakness, our choices. Mason understood. The trial was not about defeating enemies. It was about how they faced them. He stepped back, calling to the others. Stay close. Protect each other. That is how we prove ourselves. Together they formed a circle. The fiery warriors pressed in, but Mason blocked with his spear, Kai used broken stones as a shield, and Nora guided them, spotting patterns in the attacks. When Kai stumbled, Mason pulled him back to his feet. When Nora was nearly struck, Kai shielded her with his arm. They moved not as individuals, but as one. The golden core pulsed brighter, and some of the fire warriors dissolved into sparks. The guardian's voice echoed, softer but still strong. Unity. That is the first mark of strength. The trial was not over. The chamber shifted, and the flames surged higher. This time, the fire twisted into shapes of great beast serpents of golden heat, wings of burning ash. They circled above, striking downward with blazing fangs. Kai froze as one serpent lunged at him, but Mason shoved him aside, taking the strike across his arm. The heat burned through his sleeve, but he did not fall. His eyes stayed steady. Nora shouted, pointing at the glowing circles beneath their feet. The beasts are tied to the core. If we align the rings, we weaken them. She dashed across the platform, leaping from one golden circle to another, pressing her hands against symbols etched in the stone. Each time she struck the right one, the beast above her flickered. Mason and Kai shielded her, drawing the attacks toward themselves. At last, the final circle lit up, and the serpents exploded into showers of sparks that rained harmlessly down. The heat in the chamber lowered slightly. The guardian's voice rumbled again. Wisdom. That is the second mark of strength. But the last and greatest trial still remained. The golden crystal pulsed violently, cracks spreading across its surface. A roar filled the air as the flames merged into a single giant form, a colossal figure of fire, its height reaching the ceiling of the chamber. Its burning eyes fixed on Mason's team, and the guardian spoke through its mouth. Now comes the final measure. Not unity. Not wisdom. But sacrifice. The fire does not reveal who can hold power. it reveals who can give it up. The fiery giant raised its arms, and the heat became unbearable. The platform shook, pieces breaking away into molten pits below. Kai's voice shook. It's too strong. We can't stop this. Mason gripped his spear tighter, though his arm was burned. He turned to Nora and Kai. Listen to me. The trial is not about killing this thing. It's about choice. One of us must stand and give everything, to show we carry this fire not for ourselves but for others. Nora's eyes widened. No. If anyone does that, they won't survive. The Guardian's voice thundered. One must carry the flame into the fire. Only then will the tomb reveal its truth. The air trembled as the fiery giant advanced. Mason looked at Nora, then at Kai, then even at Talem, who stood silent at the edge of the platform, fear burning in his glowing eyes. Mason's decision weighed heavy, but his voice was calm. Humanity's strength has never been in power alone. It is in giving, in standing for others. If that is the trial, then I will face it. He stepped forward toward the fire, ready to offer himself. Nora cried out, grabbing his arm, while Kai shouted his name. Even Talem whispered, "No, this is not how it must end." But Mason only looked back once, his eyes steady, before turning toward the blazing giant. The chamber filled with golden fire, the test reaching its peak. Humanity's fate, and the tomb's final secret, hung on the edge of his choice. The golden fire swirled like a storm as Mason stepped forward. The giant of flame towered over him, its blazing arms stretching wide, ready to strike. Every part of the tomb shook under its heat, and yet Mason's steps did not slow. His face was calm, his voice steady. "If sacrifice is what you ask," Mason said, "then I give myself. Not for glory. Not for power. But so my people, and all who come after, may walk in light and not in fear." The Guardian's voice thundered through the chamber. "You understand the meaning of the flame. But will you truly carry it into the fire?" Nora rushed forward, grabbing his arm. Her eyes were fierce. "You don't have to do this alone. Humanity doesn't survive because one person falls. It survives because we stand together." Kai stood beside her, trembling but determined. "If you go, then I go. We came here as a team. We finish as a team." For the first time, Talem also stepped forward. His glowing eyes shone with conflict. His people had feared this tomb for ages, had sealed it away. Yet here stood humans, ready to walk into the fire without hesitation. Slowly, he bowed his head. "Your courage shames me. Perhaps your kind was meant to awaken this place, not mine." The fiery giant raised its hand, a blade of pure heat forming within it. The trial's end was near. Mason looked at his team, at Nora's defiance, Kai's courage, and even Talem's respect. His chest tightened, but then he smiled faintly. "Then let us face this together." They linked hands, forming a circle under the golden core. The flame giant brought its weapon down in a strike that could have destroyed them all. But instead of breaking, the team stood firm. Their unity glowed brighter than the fire. The golden crystal above them shattered into a burst of light, flooding the chamber. The fiery giant froze, its form cracking like glass. The Guardian's voice boomed one final time. "Unity. Wisdom. Sacrifice. You have shown all three. Humanity carries the flame not as a weapon, but as a light for others to follow. The trial is complete." The giant dissolved into sparks, raining harmlessly down upon them. The heat faded, and the tomb grew still. In the silence that followed, the golden light flowed into the air, weaving around Mason and the others before sinking gently into their chests. Kai gasped, pressing a hand over his heart. It feels warm. Like it's alive inside me. Nora's eyes softened. It's not just power. It's trust. The tomb trusted us. Talem's voice was hushed, almost reverent. The flame of the old empire has chosen new bearers. Not of my people, but of yours. It will live in you now. The chamber walls shifted, opening paths that had been sealed for ages. Strange machines came to life, glowing with golden energy. Murals lit up, showing images of the fallen empire. They had once burned bright with their golden flame, but greed and pride turned it into chains. The last king had sealed the tomb so that no one would repeat the same mistake. And now, that fire had been given to humanity. Mason stood quietly, letting the truth sink in. He did not feel like a conqueror. He felt like a keeper. A guardian of something greater than himself. When they finally emerged from the tomb, the desert sun was low, painting the sands in red and gold. Behind them, the hatch sealed once more, the tomb returning to silence. But Mason knew it was no longer forgotten. Kai looked back one last time. Do you think others will come, searching for what we found? Mason nodded slowly. Yes. And when they do, it will be our duty to guide them. The fire must never become a weapon again. It must remain a light. Nora placed a hand on her pack, where her tools now carried strange new readings. We brought knowledge, but we also brought responsibility. That is heavier than gold. Talem raised his head, the desert wind moving his silver robe. My people will not understand this. They will fear what has awakened. But I will tell them what I saw. That humanity did not take the fire by force. You were chosen, because you stood for one another. As they walked across the dunes, the horizon glowing with fading sunlight, Mason felt the warmth in his chest pulse gently, like a second heartbeat. It was not heavy. It was steady, reminding him of the trial and the choices made. The tomb was behind them, but its gift would shape the future. Humanity had once again stepped where others feared, and instead of bringing ruin, they had brought light. And somewhere, deep in the silent desert, the last echo of the Guardian's voice whispered through the sands. Burn bright, children of earth. Burn bright, and never forget.